Well, I'm sure you're all familiar with the prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me show love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Beautiful. And according to Ernest Holmes, the author of The Science of Mind, the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, we are the instruments and the office through which that which is greater than we are performs the act of creation in us, through us, and for us. So Holmes seems to think we're already instruments of the divine peace, love, faith, hope, light, and joy, and so much more. The beautiful poem, the sentiments of his prayer, his poems are the choices that we get to make each and every day on how we will choose to practice the presence. That's what that's about. Surrendering to those things and making that choice to practice the presence in those beautiful ways. And that's what our series is this month that we're wrapping up, Practicing the Presence, based on the book by Joel Goldsmith. There's a couple of copies of that left, I noticed this morning, if you didn't have a chance to pick yours up. And my talk today is, as Lily was singing about, we're instruments of divine love. Instruments of divine love. Whenever I hear that phrase, I get a feeling of comfort. Instrument of divine love. Almost like being in symphony hall and feeling the beautiful music wash over you. Has anybody had that experience? Yeah, there's just such a harmony of the musicians, each one individual, each instrument unique, each interpretation of the score, their own feeling into that. And a conductor who's pulling it all together and making this beautiful sound, this beautiful harmony of all of those different instruments coming together in that one beautiful sound. Anybody else have that feeling about music? Yeah. And it happens in rock and roll too. There are some beautiful vocals out there that are wonderful harmonies. Crosby, Stills, and Nash, the Eagles, the Beach Boys, right? Back in the 80s, there were some girl groups, I think they were called the Forster Sisters in country. They had beautiful harmonies, just gives you goosebumps to think about those beautiful harmonies. What is it about harmony that affects us in that way? I think it's because music strikes a chord within us, that chord of harmony, because we come from the harmony of the divine. That's one of the qualities of God, is the harmony. And because we are of that, when we hear harmony or experience it, it strikes that chord of remembrance, that chord of unity within us. And it can happen in a business transaction, or it can happen when you're in the groove, if you're doing some physical activity or something. Everything just seems to be going your way. There's that feeling of alignment, that feeling of harmony. Have you had that experience? You know, it's music, and it can be anywhere in our lives. That things are so good right now. Have you ever had that feeling? I hope you have. I hope you're having it right now. Yeah, life is good. And music is a wonderful, what's the word I need? It's a wonderful example. That's the word of how much it's a system, order to it, and yet there's infinite creativity within it. 3 other musicians could have come in and sung her song this morning, and it would be different from each one. They might have put it to a different rhythm. They may have sung it with different pauses. Their range of vocals or their key may have been different. They may have used a different instrument. So there's infinite creativity within the system of music. Within that creativity, much like us, Holmes calls it multiplicity in the unity, right? Multiplicity, we're all one, but we're all unique and individualized within that. And that's what we see in music. It's a system, but every song is different. Even the same song can be performed differently. Yeah. And this is the idea that Holmes is teaching us in the science of mind, that we live in the infinite harmony with spirit, and that we're instruments through which it plays its songs. And in the playing or the breath of life, spirit is individualized in us, as us, and through us. Because we have some choice in how that expression comes forward. Spirit's always giving. That's never turned off. But it's up to us on how we receive, how much or how little we receive, how we filter what we are receiving, and then what we do with it. Ever had an idea you didn't take action on? Yeah, that's freedom of choice, isn't it? I'm not going to do that. So just like the symphony is individualized through the conductor, the musicians, the instruments, the score. If you've seen the LA Philharmonic and the Scottsdale Symphony or the Phoenix Symphony, they're all different. They have different conductors and different musicians, and it sounds different. The symphony hall in which it is played sounds different. If you think about a saxophone, and it's played, let's say, does anybody in here play saxophone? Okay, so if I gave you all saxophones, right? It would sound interesting, wouldn't it? Yeah, the first time we're probably not going to be proficient at it. But you hand that same saxophone to David Sanborn, that great jazz sax player. And he is a very fit instrument through which that saxophone comes to life. Look him up this afternoon if you've not heard him play. But that's the difference. He has become a fit instrument through which spirit can express what that saxophone is capable of. Just like the lady that Reverend Lee shared in the Good News this morning. What was not in the article, but was in the article, but I didn't give him that information, was that she's a ghostwriter in her regular career. So the years of preparation of ghostwriting, did that prepare her for songwriting? Probably, right? Ghostwriting, storytelling prepared her for songwriting. So she's writing her own songs now. And she had the time and the opportunity. What am I going to do with that guitar that's a constant reminder of my ex? Well, I'm going to play it. And during the pandemic, she had nothing else to do, so she learned to play the guitar. And then through relationships that she had built, she connected with the guy in the recording studio who said, wow, let's record that. And she's off and running. Isn't life wonderful? Yeah, life is wonderful. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago I told on myself? You know how I love to do that up here. Valerie called me about the picnic, and we were talking about the tables. And remember my hidden belief that fluttered up and came out? And I shared that with you all about my distrust of my fellow humans taking our tables if we weren't there to guard them. Oh my gosh! Valerie was a messenger of the divine. She was an instrument through which Spirit was speaking to me so that I could recognize and have another opportunity to bring that forward and heal it. She was a messenger of the divine. She was an instrument of God that day. And that's the way that Spirit acts through us and for us. And the way that we act through each other, for each other, and for our planet. Spirit can only do for us what it can do through us. But even though we're channels and instruments of the divine, we've got to be willing, don't we? We've got to be willing to be that channel to express. Have you ever seen a piece of trash on the ground and just felt compelled you've got to go pick that up, chase that bag down the street till you get it? I mean, sometimes, right? What's causing that? Or maybe you have trusted and followed intuition. Little and big one. Yeah. Have you ever felt compelled to speak to a stranger? And then found that they really needed somebody to talk to in that moment? Yeah. These are just a few examples of the way that Spirit works through us for our planet, for each other, for ourselves. And I bet you've got a lot of those that you can share during our question and answers after service this morning. So I look forward to hearing about it. But let's go back to Holmes. Holmes loved the work of Thomas Troward. He said that Thomas Troward pulled together the teaching of the science of mind for him. That Holmes was raised on the Bible, so he really understood the Christ consciousness from the metaphysical standpoint. Through his studies, he had expanded enough that he got that, he understood that. So he had that Christ consciousness part of it. And he was able to start pulling that all together. He understood about love, but there was something missing. And Troward came along, and it was the law, because that's what Troward's teaching is all about, is the law. And Holmes said, that's it. Love is the way, and law is the law. What is it? Love is the way, points the way. Love points the way. Law makes the way possible. And that is the science of mind teaching. Now, Emma Curtis Hopkins came along and taught him the mystical side, and Reverend Lee's going to talk about that in his workshop today, so you can hear that piece of it. But he said the point Troward brings out in all of his writings is that the infinite can do for us only what it can do through us. The power to be delivered must equal the instrument through which it is to be, if it is to be effective. That's like the saxophone that we were talking about, right? Jesus summed it up when he said, it's about belief. It's done as we believe. So the question is, are we a fit instrument through which the prayer on our hearts can manifest? Are we a fit instrument through which that prayer can manifest? Holmes goes on to say, if your belief is the size of a thimble, Spirit can fill that. If it's the size of a bathtub, Spirit can fill that much. If it's the size of a train station, Spirit can fill that much too. However, if it's flexible, elastic, and open at the top, Spirit can expand it. Spirit can expand it. Now, for me, this was one of those passages in the Science of Mind that when I first read it, about 20 plus 25 years ago now, it really resonated with me because it was the first time in my life that I had ever been told it was up to me. It was up to me. It wasn't up to all the outside influences that I thought it was up to. My paycheck, my good luck, someone taking care of this or that, something out there. It was up to me. And so I studied this passage. I could believe small like a thimble, or I could play big. I could play big. It wasn't about Spirit withholding because I was unworthy or bad or a sinner or from Virginia or anything like that. It was about me and what I thought about it all. And it's about you and what you think about it all. I needed to heal my belief that I was not good enough. I needed to become a fit instrument through which Spirit could play the song that I was dreaming of. I wasn't when I first read that passage. I had to become that. I had to heal that. The question that I asked myself then, and I try to teach now, how do we consciously and consistently expand our awareness, believe more, and have a consciousness that is flexible, elastic, and open at the top? How do we do that? First, we have to become aware of the teaching. This is new thought, right? It's new thought. And we can become aware of it, but then sometimes that resistance is strong because it is so new. And we may end up saying, nope, not for me. Maybe it's too much. Maybe it's too much too soon. A lot of folks come through our community and leave. It's not for them, and that's okay, right? We're all on a spiritual journey, a spiritual path. So if you do stay, and it is what you like, and you're enjoying what you're hearing, we begin to study and learn more. We begin to accept and perhaps even embody the truth a little bit, begin to live it and use it in our lives. Then we begin to surrender. We begin to surrender. Anything that's not it. We let go of the old beliefs. We let go of judgment. We let go of feeling unworthy. We let go of all the beliefs and the thoughts that are limiting or blocking the flow of the divine. Remember, the divine is always flowing through and to us and giving, and it's up to us if we block it. That's too much. I can't have that much yet. Can't handle that much yet. It's up to us. It's said that spirituality is really just a process of letting go of all of the stuff that all of the walls that we've created to block the good. So we let go until we begin to know and to embody and to live the truth. That's why we have our practicing the principles each and every week, is so that we can take this stuff home and work with it in our lives, heal the places in us that are still limited, and allow Spirit to flow more readily through us. We become flexible. We become elastic and open at the top. Our consciousness expands, which is what we've been talking about, right? Having a larger vessel through which Spirit can flow. We become flexible, elastic, and open at the top, forever curious and willing to practice the presence of God. Are you willing? Are you willing? It's a big step, isn't it? Is to just be willing to do it. I was talking with my prayer partner friend this week, and we were talking about one of our minister friends who was retiring and what retirement looked like as a minister, because as an ordained minister, we're ministers for life. Unless you do something really, 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 really bad. So even when you retire, you're not retired, you're still a minister. So we were talking about this, like, what does that look like, if we were to retire at some point, or at least retire from active pulpit service. And where the conversation went was, we're students of life. We're always learning and studying and growing and expanding. We're always interested in what's new and leading edge stuff, taking classes. So what we decided was that as long as we remained interested, willing, curious, brave, no matter what we were doing, we would still continue growing. That's the hazard of retirement, isn't it? We stop growing. We stop doing. Yeah. So Spirit is forever expressing. The question becomes, what is the song of Spirit that I am choosing to express as my life now? Your perfect song. What is the song of Spirit that I'm choosing to express? So if you would like to study these principles and practices with us, use them in your life this week, you can sign up for our Mindful Monday email, and it's a recap of today's talk. You can use the QR code here. You can sign up in the lobby, or you can send me an email. Folks online, you can do the same. And we've got two principles for you, or two practices for you this week. The first one is hear the song. Hear the song. Notice when someone or something is being an instrument through which spirit flows to you this week, like Valerie was for me a few weeks ago. Notice when that's happening. Remember the earlier example. Someone has a message for you. Perhaps you notice a sign or a bumper sticker or vanity license plate. You hear something on the radio. You see a billboard. You overhear a conversation, right? Notice all of these things. Pay attention to your intuition and then consider your reaction. Consider your reaction when those things happen. Do you believe it? Do you discount it? Does it upset you? Are you grateful for it? Notice your reaction when those things happen. Number 2, be the song. Notice when you're being called to be the instrument through which spirit is expressing to someone else. Notice when that's happening. Pay attention to your intuition. It's an intuition week, so pay attention to your intuition this week. Be brave enough to speak out, curious enough to ask the question. Affirm daily your willingness. I am willing to be an instrument of the divine. Will you say that with me? I am willing to be an instrument of the divine. Doesn't that feel good? Yeah. Make the phone call, send the text, send the email, check in, or simply smile and greet a stranger. You never know when that is going to be so heart-opening for them, do you? Yeah. Notice where you're being called this week, and are you willing to answer the call? Our closing quote this morning comes from Thomas Troward, who said, I love this quote, it's beautiful, I've never heard it before. He says, beauty is the externalization of harmony, and harmony is the coordinated working of all the powers of being, both in the individual and in the relation of the individual to the infinite from which it springs. This harmony conducts us at once into the presence of the innermost undifferentiated life. Isn't that nice? So this week I invite you to join me in the harmonic flow of life. And so it is. All right, it's your turn. Who's got questions or comments this morning? I didn't tell you everything. Now come on. Are y'all done with this playing? You want to do it anymore? We can stop.
I know in one of our earlier studies, we read a book about a woman who was desirous of studying with Thomas Troward, who declined to do it and wouldn't do anything. And she raised in the 1890s $150,000 equivalent to go study with him. So he finally took her. And every time they tell her she couldn't do it, she said, I decline to be discouraged. And that has really stayed with me. So when I see him, I realize, and there are a lot of times in my life when I've said, I can do this. I decline to be discouraged. So a lot of these teachings come back to us in wonderful ways. They do.
Yeah, you remembered that quote, Genevieve Baron. It's her book about Troward and how she used his principles to get him to teach her as his only student ever. He would not teach people. Yeah. Who else? Instruments, music, examples of how Spirit has used you or how Spirit has used someone else to give to you. Okay.
So those of you who've been to any of our events or the ones that I personally have sponsored, I get up and get everybody engaged in, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Yeah, and I had a little happy hour on Friday, and got the group doing it, and we sang the whole song, and it just was so fun just to watch everybody just engage and have a good time and be happy. So if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. There you go.
And it makes you smile. I like that. All right.
So, one of my practices is in recovery, and I won't get into it too much, but I love the prayer of St. Francis because it helps me to kind of deliver messages to a few of my sponsees that I work with. And sometimes I don't know what kind of mood they're going to be in because I don't always know what kind of mood I'm going to be in. So, I really love that sometimes what I can do is just check in on them with a text message and a little quote or just something, and they always send a message back with a smile saying, "Thank you so much. I really needed that." And I try to do it every day, even when I don't feel like it. I mean, sometimes I don't feel very upbeat too. And I realize that, you know, if I take some time to pray and meditate, that the input has a great output. So, anyway.
Thank you for that commercial. Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because what is the prompt to send that particular person that particular quote in that moment when you've had no physical contact? Something prompted you to connect with that individual. That spirit. That spirit. Yeah. What else? Who else? Katie.
Yes, so I've had that experience many, many times of like we just were discussing. You send a text message to somebody, or I see an uplifting meme or a post right on Instagram, and I'll send that to a few of my friends, and then two or one or five of them will text me back and be like, "Wow, that was really amazing. Thank you. I needed that." So I have that experience often. Um, and I'm grateful that I listen to my intuition and just go with the flow. And I love the whole concept of music that we've been talking about because music has been a huge influence in my life. I often say music is life. I was raised by musicians and I love to sing. And so many times as well, I'm processing through something or some big emotions, and I'll get in the car, and either on the radio or on Pandora, a song will come on that just speaks to my spirit. And I know that's the divine. So I am always grateful for music.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. All right, one more. Anyone else? Nothing? You're usually so chatty. You think they did well? I always do well. All right, anything else? Last opportunity. All right. Well, thank you for your wisdom and for sharing. I always appreciate that. Would you join me for prayer? As we go within, recognizing that there is one life, that life is God, and that life is all that there is. The one power, the one presence, the infinite intelligence, and the divine harmony that is the universe, that is spirit. And all of that is here now present, in through and as me as an expression of it, and in through and as each and every one of us gathered in this room, gathered online, and those listening later. For we are all connected in the oneness and the wholeness of life. There is no separation. There is only the unity, the harmony, and the balance of the one. And so from this place, I speak my word for and about each one of us this morning, knowing, claiming, and accepting that we are instruments and channels of the divine. A spirit can only do for us what spirit can do through us. And as we open to be greater expressions of that, that we are having the elasticity in our consciousness, the expansiveness, and the openness at the top to receive, to give, and to be given to by each other, by Source, and by the all that is. I know for anyone that has anything in their heart this day that they are seeking prayer around, whether that is healing of physical, mental, emotional, whether that is financial, no matter what it might be this morning, as we lift that into this prayer, we as community come together, are together in this consciousness, and we lift and hold that individual, knowing that whatever needs to be healed or revealed or whatever flow needs to occur, all of that is occurring right here, right now. And how grateful I am to know that this is how it works. Grateful to know that we are one in the one, and grateful for the manifestation of this prayer. Grateful for this community and our ability to come together on Sunday mornings, to meditate, to pray, to connect, to join in song, and to be together as this community. With a grateful heart filled with thanksgiving, I release this prayer into the action and activity of law, knowing that it is done. And we affirm that together by saying, and so it is.